They didn't really think much about it because, of course, they've been able to get away with this stuff for decades. Democrats have. And all of a sudden, this one particular time, because of the voice of the American people, it didn't work. And now Barack Obama is scared. What did Obama know regarding the Russian collusion hoax and what I think is actually going on? There are new documents that have been released from the DNI Tulsi Gabbard that show that, yeah, dude, it looks like Barack Obama was in on the entire thing. Now, maybe, again, I'm talking about the most charitable opinion here. Maybe he wasn't specifically pulling the strings, even though if you're familiar with Obama and how he works, probably actually was. But there's not really a ton of evidence necessarily for that yet. What has now been released, this new treasure trove of information, is kind of confirming what we already all thought, which makes me think that in the future, more evidence will confirm what I think now, that, yeah, he was kind of the puppet master pulling the strings here. President Obama, in newly declassified information, documents reveal that he was a key presence in meetings with intelligence and national security officials that led to the critical steps in the FBI's Trump-Russia investigation known as Crossfire Hurricane. These documents were declassified by Gabbard and Radcliffe, shedding light on the origins of the probe. I'm going to save what I actually think is happening here, and it is kind of funny and honestly a little bit whimsical. I will say that, but we'll get to kind of the details as they come out, and also to recognize that I'm aware that some of this was already known, but it hasn't been until now where all of it's been compiled in a way that makes chronological sense. This was declassified earlier, but has now been emphasized. Then CIA Director John Brennan, and it was reported by Fox News in 2020, but it's now being re-emphasized, confirmed that he briefed Obama, Biden, Comey, Lynch, and Clapper, so the CIA, the FBI, the Attorney General, President and Vice President, on intelligence suggesting that Hillary Clinton approved a plan to tie Trump to Russia. So we knew about the meeting, but a couple months ago, it was made clear through emails, maybe it was a couple weeks ago, that Hillary Clinton was in contact with George Soros's people saying, hey, so Hillary's like chief of staff, I don't know if that actually was her actual title, but her, person was sending an email to the Soros Foundation guys saying, hey, Hillary approves. This whole idea that we're going to try and smear Trump in order to distract from the email scandal, Hillary approves. Okay, so we didn't know that in 2020. We now know that now. So what this now is in 2016, this meeting that happened between then CIA Director Brennan and President, Vice President, FBI, Attorney General, CIA Director, the information that they had prior to this meeting was that Hillary approved of this ploy to be able to distract President Trump. Now, I would imagine that meeting had some more specifics in it that we're not entirely sure as of yet right now. But the bottom line is the wheels to the plan was already in motion when this meeting happened, and therefore there's no way that it didn't come up. That is what this Fox News article that I'm mostly pulling from. It's a big, long, expansive piece. I'm trying to sum it and summarize it and condense it down a little bit for you. But basically, the new wrinkle, even though we knew about this meeting, the new wrinkle is from a couple months ago that we now know that Hillary approved of it before this meeting happened where Obama was briefed on all of it. Fast forward a little bit. Trump has already been elected. Barack Obama invites Trump to the White House, and I think that's in here in this article. Let me see when that was. November 10th, Obama meets with President-elect Trump at the White House and warns him against hiring Michael Flynn as national security advisor, citing Flynn's prior dismissal and concerns about his Russian ties. So Flynn was fired from the military in 2014 by Obama. Okay, so Obama doesn't like this guy. And because I think, this is alleged, because I think Obama knew about the plan to connect Trump to Russia, and then the plan didn't work, he now knows in his head that, okay, we set this plan in motion. Clinton approved it. I approved certain aspects of it. And the plan is in motion. He's going to find out, he being Trump, is going to find out that we did all of this sort of stuff. He already kind of knew a little bit about what was happening to him. Remember the tweet, X post, Trump saying, Obama's tapping my phones, and everyone laughed at him, and he turned out to be absolutely right. So he was aware of the stuff that was happening to him at the time. But Obama, on his part, knew, okay, so we cooked up this crazy fake conspiracy, and he's going to find out about that we cooked up this crazy fake conspiracy. So let me try and frame this fake conspiracy in a way that makes sense and offer Michael Flynn as the sacrificial Trump appointee nominee in order to take away from the fact that we really were just making it up as we go. Okay, I'm going to try to add legitimacy. This is Obama, I think, trying to add legitimacy to the fact that, hey, we made this whole thing up, so let me try and actually add some things that could, in theory, be true. Hillary approves the message. Obama gets briefed on that messaging. Obama gets briefed on it. It doesn't work. So then Obama says, hey, Michael Flynn is Russian assets, so don't hire him. In order to, when Trump goes back and looks at it, goes, okay, so Flynn, that's what he was talking about. It wasn't anything to completely discredit me and try and make the email scandal go away. It was Flynn. Now, obviously, that didn't work. On December, let me see, make sure I'm getting this right. On December 7th and 8th of 2016, the presidential daily brief prepared by Obama states Russian criminal actors did not alter the 2016 election outcomes via cyber attacks, though Russia likely aimed to undermine the credibility of the American election. The FBI expressed concerns about the presidential daily briefing and draft a bunch of dissents, delaying its publication. In other words, they knew early on that the Russian operatives, who, by the way, I mean, I think it should be said that Russia was trying to meddle in our elections, not in the way that the libs are continually trying to say, oh, no, Trump's a Russian asset. No, they just do that. Like, that's just what Russia, they just sow as much disinformation and distrust to try and undermine the legitimacy of it. I think it's been widely reported that they didn't care who won. Like, they weren't pro-Trump, they weren't pro-Hillary. They were just like, hey, let's screw around a little bit. This, the Obama-led, allegedly now, but seems potentially true, the Obama-led attempt to discredit President Trump in order to move attention away from the email scandal turned into the Russians' best dream. Like, they could not have had a better outcome because Obama and Hillary and Clapper and Comey and Lynch and Biden, everybody involved, because they did that, the Russians got the best outcome they possibly could have hoped for. They didn't seek out to alter the election in any way, and the Obama administration knew that, as the reports show. What they did do is spent a couple $1,000 on Facebook ads. And when you're talking about, hundreds of millions of dollars in campaign funding from both of the parties, not to say that that's okay, like I don't want that to happen, but minuscule in the grand scope of things. But the Obama administration, because they decided to start this fake nothing, effectively gave the Russians everything they want. But that's beside the point. So fast forward, that's I think kind of the smoking gun here on all of this. There's several more dates where Comey, Rice, Brennan, Clapper, Biden raised concerns about Flynn talking with Kislyak. Then Flynn ultimately resigns for misleading the president, but then all the charges from the FBI of him are dropped. We all know this sort of stuff. This is not new information. But considering this is now just coming out, here's my assessment of it. I genuinely think, Barack Obama, being the powerful political figure that he is, arguably one of the best politicians the country has ever seen, except for maybe Trump. And that's not condoning any of his behavior or his politics or his policy or anything like that. That's just objectively true. Obama is a good politician. I think he got so drunk on his own power and ability to manipulate power, he thought, there's no way this this isn't going to work. Of course, Hillary's going to win. And nobody will ever hear about this or see it. But turns out, not only was Hillary herself in on the Russian hoax, Obama looks like he was in on the Russian hoax, and they thought, yeah, there's no way anybody will ever know about this, so it's fine, effectively. But then the American people shocked the Democrat political elite establishment by electing Donald Trump, and all of a sudden, holy cow, we are in this big mess, which is why I think Obama is now politically active. During President Trump's first term, remember, Barack Obama's been out of office for almost 10 years, right? Which is a long time to be out of office. Why then is he all of a sudden engaged in the political system now? And not just in response to Trump, but just overall. During Trump's first term, Barack Obama was relatively silent. I mean, he was doing his like foundation stuff of like, oh, you know, my brother's keeper and all this crazy other hullabaloo that was nonsense. And we don't need to get into the, you know, the corruption there. But he was relatively quiet on the current political happenings. And that's kind of the standard for most presidents, right? They don't necessarily engage in the policy making or the elections. Like, yeah, obviously they go stump for their own candidates, but they're relatively quiet in kind of the bigger overall process, especially when it comes to primaries, when it comes to people in their own party. Why then has Obama been more vocal? And yes, his office put out these allegations are insane, and therefore we don't usually comment on this, but these are insane, so we're going to. Okay, but then why are you commenting on other things? Here's what I'm talking about. Barack Obama reportedly had a phone call with Ma'am Danny, the guy running for mayor in New York. It lasted about an hour, and they just chatted. Why? Barack Obama also came out in support of Gavin Newsom and his whole gerrymandering thing, and has been talking up Gavin Newsom as a great guy. Why? Well, because if all of this stuff was coming out and Barack Obama no longer feels so insulated because his party, one, lost to Trump, two, the next guy they put in was a geriatric mental patient and a crazy lady. Now Trump won again. Barack Obama is probably going, holy cow, I need, as the most popular Democrat in America, to insert myself and effectively become the kingmaker so that we don't lose in 2028, so that I can be outside and again, insulated from all of the things that I did. I think this is they thought this was a layup. And then because that layup didn't work, I'm talking about the Russian collusion thing. I think they thought, yeah, we'll just in order to distract from Hillary's emails, we're going to put all this stuff on Trump. We'll just kind of make it up. And this is a layup to them, right? This is a political, yeah, it's a floater, easy basket. Then all of a sudden it doesn't work. And instead, because they can't come out about it, they double down and they launch this crazy Russian collusion hoax. And then President Trump loses, but it's Joe Biden in office and Kamala Harris, so they can't keep the White House. Now President Trump is back in charge. Holy cow, all of this stuff is now coming to light. Barack Obama is sitting there sweating bullets thinking, holy cow, I need to make sure my party, one, doesn't freaking lose, and two, is going to be nice and lenient to me in the coming years, because this is going to look really bad. I think this is they didn't really think much about it because, of course, they've been able to get away with this stuff for decades. Democrats have. And all of a sudden, this one particular time, because of the voice of the American people, it didn't work. And now Barack Obama is scared. That's what I think is happening. Obviously, as more of this comes out, we will continue to bring it to you here and discuss the fallout of Obamagate, which I think is what we should rename Russiagate, considering that I'm pretty sure we all now know he was pretty involved. That is going to be a really interesting story to follow here in the next couple months and couple years. We'll keep you posted.